Hey everyone, welcome back. If you opened up the Hindu this morning and felt just completely overwhelmed by that sheer wall of text, trust me, you are absolutely not alone. It's a lot. But don't worry, because over the next few minutes, we're going to take all of today's sprawling news and completely distill it down into a crisp, no-fluff explainer. It is perfectly tailored for your UPSC syllabus. We're zeroing in on the May 20th edition, and honestly, we've got a lot of ground to cover today. All right, let's dive right in. To help you actually see the bigger picture without getting lost in the weeds, we've broken today's news into 6 core pillars. We're going to hit polity and judicial tensions, global alliances, economy, environment, and health. Then we'll actually apply this to a mains framework and finish off with a rapid-fire revision summary.
First up, Section 1, Polity and Judicial Tensions.
Right now, we are seeing a massive constitutional tug-of-war playing out in the Supreme Court. On one side, you've got this time-honored Article 21 principle. Bail is the rule, jail is the exception. But then, right on the other side, you have Section 43D5 of the UAPA. And that section mandates a strict presumption against bail if there's a prima facie case. So what's happening? Well, the Delhi police is actively urging the Supreme Court for a larger constitution bench to look at this. Why? Because 2 separate 2-judge benches have actually handed down totally conflicting rulings on whether a really long incarceration can override that statutory bar on bail. It's a classic clash of laws. Okay, red alert for prelims here, because you have to be so careful with how examiners test these current events against your static concepts. With the UAPA, the ultimate trap is forgetting that the 2019 amendment allowed the government to designate individuals as terrorists, not just organizations. They love testing that. Also, the Supreme Court just permitted the euthanasia of rabid or dangerous stray dogs. The trap? The animal birth control rules of 2023 actually completely prohibit killing strays. The Supreme Court had to intentionally carve out a special exception here. They're trying to balance the Article 21 right to human safety with our Article 51AG fundamental duty to have compassion for living creatures. Just wrapping up our polity radar, we've got 3 fast updates touching on federalism and institutional integrity. Down in Kerala, Congress leader V.D. Sathisen is the new chief minister after a massive UDF sweep. In West Bengal, they are reopening those intense post-poll violence cases from 2021. And nationally, the CBI just arrested a coaching center owner over in Latur, linked to the NEET UG 2026 paper leak. That's a huge deal because it's raising serious questions about the transparency of the National Testing Agency.
Moving smoothly onto Section 2, Global Alliances and Shifts. Make sure you're mentally mapping this straight to your GS paper too.
So, the Prime Minister was just in Oslo for the 3rd India-Nordic Summit. The big headline here is that relations are officially upgraded to a green technology and innovation strategic partnership. The heavy focus is on sustainable energy and Arctic research. But strategically, here is the absolute most important takeaway for us. All 5 of those Nordic parliamentary democracies fully backed India's bid for a permanent UN Security Council seat, plus our entry into the nuclear suppliers group. That is major diplomatic backing. Now let's talk about a classic UPSC trap, confusing the EFTA with the EU. EFTA is the European Free Trade Association. It's Switzerland, Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway. Now wait, isn't Norway in the EU? Nope. They are absolutely not part of the European Union. The EU covers the other Nordic states like Denmark, Sweden, and Finland. India just signed a massive trade pact with the EFTA, and that is a totally separate entity from the India-EU FTA. Do not mix those two up on exam day.
Zooming out to the broader global chessboard, we had the US-China summit over in Beijing. The main signal? Both sides essentially admitted that totally decoupling their economies is just unworkable. For India, this means we really have to carefully navigate what's called the Thucydides trap right here in the Indo-Pacific. Meanwhile, look at India and South Korea. We are rapidly upgrading defense ties, moving from just the K9 Vajra-T artillery into major high-level submarine collaboration. It's brilliant, really. It shows India aggressively expanding its strategic autonomy by building real defense muscle outside of our traditional allies.
All right, let's shift gears. Section 3, Economy and Energy Security.
This next data point is actually kind of scary when you think about it. With the crisis in West Asia, global oil prices are surging. So look at our strategic petroleum reserve. We currently hold only about 7 days of consumption in our underground caverns. 7 days. That's it. Compare that to the US sitting at 20 days and the International Energy Agency's explicit recommendation, which is 90 days. We are heavily exposed to global shocks right now. And here's the exact domino effect of how that global vulnerability hits home. Step 1, Brent crude spikes to around $109 to $110 a barrel. Step 2, the sheer cost of importing all that expensive oil drags the Indian rupee down to a historic low of 96.7 against the dollar. Step 3, our oil marketing companies, they're suddenly bleeding cash, facing under-recovery losses of 750 crore rupees every single day, which forces Step 4, the finance ministry steps in with drastic austerity measures for PSU banks, slashing travel budgets, mandating video calls, and pushing hard for electric vehicle adoption. It's a direct chain reaction. Let's lock in some more prelims facts while we're here. When they ask you about the IEA and petroleum reserves, remember, India is an association country of the IEA. We joined in 2017, but we are not a full member. That is exactly why that 90-day rule isn't legally binding on us, even though it's the target. Also, with all these fuel price hikes, remember that central excise on petroleum is not shared with the states under GST. Why? Because petroleum is still outside the GST framework. Moving right along into Section 4, Environment and Health Crises, straight into GS Paper 3 territory here. So, the World Health Organization just hit the alarm bell. They issued a very swift PHEIC, that's a public health emergency of international concern. This is over a new Ebola outbreak in the DRC and Uganda, specifically the rarer Bundibugyo strain. Now, for the exam, what you absolutely need to know is that a PHEIC is a formal alert under the International Health Regulations of 2005. It is an alert, it is not a pandemic declaration. For India, the direct risk is low right now, but we've already ramped up surveillance at our ports just in case. Back home, we have a genuinely heartbreaking situation unfolding. A 6-year-old tiger has died in Madhya Pradesh's Kanha Tiger Reserve. This is actually the 6th tiger death there in just a single month. The suspected culprit is canine distemper virus, or CDV. The science takeaway here. CDV is a highly contagious RNA virus that jumps from domestic stray dogs over to wild carnivores. It's the same virus that famously devastated the Serengeti lions back in '94. But watch out for the examiner trick. CDV does not affect humans. Zero impact on humans. Now, this next piece of IMD data is absolutely wild. We are experiencing what they call asymmetric warming across India. Basically, our minimum temperatures, so our nights, are heating up way faster than our maximum daytime temps. Minimums are up half a degree, but maximums are only up 0.11 degrees. Why? It's a mix of the urban heat island effect and greenhouse gases essentially trapping long-wave radiation after the sun goes down. And the impact is huge. It stops our bodies from recovering from heat stress at night, it literally stunts crop growth because it forces plants to respire all night, and it puts an insane amount of stress on our power grids after dark. All right, Section 5, Mains, Practice, and Frameworks. Let's actually put all of this to work. Imagine you open your GS2 paper and see this question derived straight from today's headlines. The tension between the UAPA's statutory bail bar and the constitutional right to speedy trial reflects a deeper conflict between security imperatives and civil liberties. Critically examine. How do we actually tackle this? Let's break down the framework. Step 1, your intro. Get straight to the point. Cite the direct conflict between the UAPA Section 43D5 bail bar and our fundamental rights under Articles 21 and 22. Step 2, the security body paragraph. You absolutely must acknowledge the state's very real need to stop flight risks and terror financing, honoring what Parliament intended. But then, Step 3, the liberty body paragraph. Bring in the Supreme Court's nuance. Mention the 2021 Najib case, arguing that if you just lock someone up indefinitely, it defeats the entire purpose of a fair trial. Finally, Step 4, conclusion. Never just summarize. Give solutions. Suggest strict trial timelines via special courts, and set up periodic bail reviews to keep those scales balanced. Okay, home stretch. Section 6, Rapid-Fire Revision Summary. Let's lock all this into your memory. Here's your cheat sheet. Map it directly to the syllabus. UAPA Coordinate Bench Conflict over Section 43D5, straight to GS2. The India-Nordic Summit? Remember the green tech focus and that massive EFTA versus EU distinction for GS2? The SPR gap, with India sitting at just 7 days versus the IEA's 90-day mark causing OMC losses, GS3, economy. The Kanha tiger deaths from the RNA-based CDV virus, GS3 environment. And finally, the Ebola PHIC alert for the Bundibugyo strain under IHR 2005, that spans across both GS2 and GS3 health. By the way, every single piece of information, every framework we unpack today comes directly from the UPSContext Daily Current Affairs study material for May 20th. It is truly essential reading, and breaking it down like this is absolutely the best way to make sure you're keeping the signal and filtering out all that extra noise. I want to leave you with this final thought. Liberty and security are not opposites in a mature democracy. They are weights on the same scale of justice. As you sit down to write out your own mains answers this week, really ask yourself, how will you balance those weights when the next big crisis hits? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep grinding, keep up the hard work, and stay completely focused. Catch you next time.
If you're ready to really practice all 8 mains questions from today's news, and you want to get your hands on Prelims MCQs and detailed notes, go ahead and download the complete PDF. Just scan the QR code on your screen or use the link in the description to join our Telegram channel. Keep up the amazing work, stay consistent, and I will see you in the next explainer.